I think the only way you're going to know that is if we can get a whistleblower who comes forward and says, yes, there was serious talk about the 25th Amendment. There were actions taken that Joe Biden didn't know what was going on.
It's totally desperate. News alert to my Republican colleagues. Joe Biden is no longer the president.
The discussions are going extremely well. I fully expect the 4 staffers and I to announce a date.
The investigation into the Biden White House is heating up, with 5 former Biden officials being asked to give interviews on the potential cover-up, or the actual cover-up, of his decline. Hey, everyone, I'm Guy Benson, along with Alicia Acuna and Lydia Hu and Joe Concha. Welcome to a brand new hour of the Big Weekend Show. Well, President Trump has also directed the Attorney General and his White House counsel to investigate the former president, Joe Biden, and his use of an autopen, specifically looking into executive orders and pardons that were issued. Now, of the 80 pardons Biden issued or signed, only 1 was actually physically signed by him by hand. That, of course, was for his son, Hunter, an infamous pardon. The rest, though, were signed by the autopen. Now, many in the media look at all this and they say there's nothing to see here. Watch.
Wow. Well, every president does use the autopen. Yeah. The question is, did Joe Biden know what the autopen was being used for?
Again, there literally is no suggestion that he didn't. I also don't know if the clouds above me could be purple, because maybe. Right now I'm in a studio. It doesn't mean I want to launch a federal investigation into it. That's the point.
Well, joining us now is Ed Martin, U.S. pardon attorney and weaponization czar. And Ed, you just heard that clip from another network with one of the anchors saying, well, there's absolutely no suggestion that Joe Biden didn't know what was going on with the autopen. You know, I think that there might be some question around that, as a matter of fact. What do you think?
Well, Guy, thank you. And it's just it's so clear when you look at what happened. It's the conduct that occurred that makes you take a second look. On December 23rd, we had unprecedented commutations of nearly every person on death row. Just before Joe Biden leaves office, we had unprecedented. In the history of America, we had pardons offered back in time for anything anybody ever done for more than a decade. And by the way, in categories, with the autopen, categories, Fauci, the Select Committee on January 6th, all the areas where there was sort of some need to look perhaps at what went on. So, I've been looking at this for almost 10 weeks because as U.S. Attorney in D.C., I was already looking at the pardons and the question of competence. Now we have the autopen, and, what we have to get to the bottom of is what were the policies and who was doing them. Now, you mentioned a whistleblower. I had a whistleblower come into my office, someone who very specifically said there were 3 people that he knew of that were dominating access to Biden, and they were using that to have influence over what was going on. That's not illegal, Guy, but it does bring a lot of questions forward when it comes to Jake Tapper. Forget about me or you. Jake Tapper has led us to the point where we're all agreeing that Joe Biden was not competent for a large portion of his the latter part of his presidency. So we're obligated to get to the bottom of it, and I think we will, and I think people are seeing that is both valid and important, and it will go on now in the future.
Ed, it's Alicia Acuna here, and again, thank you for being here.
Hi,
when
Alicia.
we get into the realm of the validity of a former president's pardons, constitutionally, what kind of territory are you in there? Because he's not the only former president who's made controversial pardons.
No, it's very important, and we should be very calm about this and serious. The pardon power is plenary. You can pardon for good reasons, bad reasons. You can even pardon for reasons that look or sound corrupt. That's actually true. Whether you go back to Mark Rich or you go to at the very end of every presidency, there'll be a rush to pardon friends and family and others. That's common. The question here is that now the admission that Joe Biden was not paying attention to large portions of the government, and now you say not so much was the pardon invalid, was the process that allowed a pardon to occur somehow compromised. That's the difference here. If it was just Joe Biden, even auto-penning pardons where he's like, I want to get Fauci off the hook, I'll do it. The pardon power is plenary. The Constitution allows it. But the question now is what was going on in that White House. And, I think it's very compelling when someone says Joe Biden never had the positions that he took, and suddenly for years he was an advocate, for example, of radical open borders. You say to yourself, was that really what he was doing? And now we have a question about the use of the autopen.
So then when we think about, oh, hi, Ed, this is Lydia Hu. Thank you so much for your time tonight. But following up on that, when we think about the use of the autopen, then, can you give us some specifics about which pardons you are really interrogating here? And then really what the end goal is? Is the goal to really set those pardons aside? And then what would that mean for the people that benefited from those pardons? I mean, Dr. Fauci, the Biden family, I mean, who and then what could happen?
You know, one of the things that Attorney General Bondi has been really good at, and it's hard for people to track all this that happens, she got in office and she was the one that created the weaponization working group that is sort of a lot of us are working under. And part of it is just to get the truth out, just so we can know what happened. And so to your point, you know, what is at the end of this? We have to get the facts out now. We have to see who was in charge. You know, one of the requests that went from the White House counsel's office to the National Archives is the paper trail of how the auto pen is used. Every White House has an auto pen, and then there's a paper trail of who's authorized, how it's used. That's been requested from the National Archives. So we have to follow the facts and see where they lead. It's too early to say that these are invalid pardons or that there was fraud or corruption, but there's certainly the coming together of unprecedented conduct, meaning pardons that are unprecedented in the history. This isn't like Mark Rich and somebody that was a donor. What happened at the end of Biden, the family and Fauci and everybody, the scope of that has never been done. And then also on I mentioned December 23rd, that was an extraordinary shift in policy, basically by the president. So those two areas, for example, are ones that are so unprecedented, you start to take a look. But we have to follow the facts and then look at what's going on. We may just simply be saying this was a mess, but it's a mess that's allowed, or we may be saying there's something more significant here, and let's get to the bottom of it.
Hey, Ed, unfortunately, we have only about 30 seconds, but do you see this trail that you talk about following the facts eventually going to Capitol Hill, where we have congressional hearings and we see Dr. Jill Biden, Hunter Biden, Ron Klain, Anita Dunn, Susan Rice, and everybody that was around the president, whether it be Tony Blinken or Jake Sullivan? Can you see them testifying on Capitol Hill and really being held accountable for what was, in many people's opinions, one of the greatest scandals in presidential history?
Yeah, I mean, certainly I would like to. Let me be careful how I do this, but I work in the executive branch. I see that our guys and gals are getting the paper trail, and we're doing interviews ourselves, and we've got whistleblowers. Some of it is public, some of it is not. So I hope that's what we see. But I have to say, we also need to see the accountability underneath that, not just a hearing or two, because they're going to lawyer up. And some of these people, by the way, should be offered immunity or granted immunity so we can get the truth out of them and bring them forward and say, tell your story. So I think that will happen in Congress. I think it also will happen with Attorney General Bondi and the White House counsel now driving this agenda and this investigation that I'm involved in.
Ed Martin live for us tonight. Ed, thank you for your time.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.